Got my monitor over there. It's recording. All right. Hey, what's up? My name is Justin, also known as Yosin Youthful on Instagram, and I'm here to talk about Nikon. So, with the drop of the Z6II, with the drop of the Z6 and Z7II, there's been a lot of mixed reception to these new cameras, and I'm a little bit confused because they're kind of everything that the community has wanted from Nikon, and now that they're out, they're not enough. What? I'm a little bit taken back by that, but at the same time, I just want to address the fact that I feel that the people in the comments that are complaining that much are actually kind of just the loud minority of people. I feel like most people who are looking for a new camera are, that's hard to say. The people that are looking for a new camera, specifically the Z6 and 7 II, I would think that yes, existing Nikon customers are definitely going to look at those cameras. I'm one of those people. I will gladly take an upgrade on my Z6, which I love, and I think it is very appealing to people that are looking to buy a camera, because as a photographer myself, I have some people back before all this craziness is happening right now. People would ask me all the time for a camera, and the first thing I would ask them would be, well, what's your budget, right? Because cameras can vary in price, and for some people, you know, we call the Z6 and the EOS R and RP and the Z5 and Z6II, we call them all affordable, but the price for some of those cameras are like up in the thousands, I think. Okay, so the Z6II starts at $859. The Z5 starts at $1,399. The Z6, as it currently stands, is at $1,799. I've kept an eye out on the prices, and it usually goes down to $1,600. That's the best discount I've seen. That's the price that I got mine at. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that for most people, a purchase of that size is pretty big. Like, it's a big investment into their career or their hobby, but nonetheless, it's still a lot of money, yes. But in the grand scheme of all of photography and the different brands and stuff, it's pretty good, you know, bang for your buck for what you're getting. And I would think that Nikon is doing very well. I love their cameras. Ever since I got the D750, I fell in love with it, especially the grip. When I started interning here at the city where I live, at a studio, I got to use mainly Canon cameras. That's what most professionals here used. And they were alright. They were a camera, you know, it was when you first get in camera, and you're like, oh my gosh, the shutter's so fast, holding down the shutter on 1DX Mark II. And, you know, it's all cool. And then eventually the Sony, I'm going to say hype train, rolled around and it swept through my town. Mainly it was because in the city where I live, there's an actual Sony representative in my city that went around to most of the professionals here. And my studio was one of those studios that got a visit from said representative, and we got to try out the cameras. And at that time, I was also starting to get on the hype train. I was like, you know, mirrorless is cool. And so I'm talking to my boss, and I'm like, oh, just take a look at these cameras. And he's a very, you know, if it works, it works type of person. And I like that about him a lot. And so for a little bit, he said, no, we're fine with the Canon equipment we have. And then we switched over to Sony. I have a video on that. We unboxed everything. He was nice enough to let me record that. And so after we got the Sonys, I was, you know, really invested because I was like, this is cool. I love technology and I love photography. And so both of these things matched together. And I was like just having a blast. It was a field day for me. And after that, I was like shooting with it like immediately, like within 3 days of us opening everything. And then I started shooting with the Sonys, and I absolutely hated them. I hated them so much because of the grip. Everyone usually complains about the the menus. But for me, the menus, you figure it out, and then custom menus in the Sony's, really good. I like the way that you can create your own menu, and it was, fairly easy. Sometimes if you haven't shot in a while, it does get difficult, but nonetheless, Sony cameras, very good. Canon cameras, very good. And then Nikon cameras, very good. And then Fuji, Pentax, Panasonic, all of the camera brands are good. I would say that just about every camera brand is putting something out there that, nowadays you can't really go wrong with a purchase. Sometimes it's just like, what camera is bringing to you what you need, and what price are you trying to get it at, right? And where I'm going with this, basically, like, I don't understand the hate when it comes to Nikon. If Nikon goes down, which I very much doubt it won't, but that's the main thing that everyone wants to talk about. I'm not an expert, and I'm not going to pretend to be one, but I don't really see that going down. And my thought process was, when I bought into the Z system, was if they do the lens selection that they currently have out, if I can manage to get it, like, I'll use it for a really long time before I actually need to upgrade again. Right now, I'm a big fan of the Z mount and the Z system. I like the diversity that they have on, filling in all of these price points. And I feel like the Z6II coming in at $2K USD is, very nice. I think I've heard around that it's actually launching cheaper than the Z6. At that price for $2,000, it's like, what other brand is giving you that much? It's like, I think you're getting a whole lot for your money. And I'm not sponsored by Nikon. I just want to put that out there. They don't sponsor me. I do know and talk to the Sony rep, but not that closely. And Sony most definitely doesn't sponsor me. Neither does Canon. But I'm not sponsored by anyone. And so I can talk trash about camera brands too, but I feel like that's very unhealthy. And I feel that the professionals on the YouTube platform really need to stop bashing down on a camera that doesn't really fit what they're using. Just because a camera doesn't specifically 100% fit on your foot, like, perfectly, doesn't mean that the camera is bad. For me, the Z6 pushes out just enough gas that I know it's perfect for me, is what I'm trying to say. The Z6 does the right amount of stuff for what I know that I do at the right price. I really liked the pricing on the Z6. It was really appealing to me. As you might know, I shoot on Sony thanks to the studio that I work at. Super grateful for that. And so I'm lucky enough to have access to those cameras on occasion. And if I really want to, I could have saved up for an A7R4 or a A9 Mark II. Both really great cameras, and I like using both of them. Only complaint with them is the grip. And honestly, it's small things like that that'll sway one person one way or the other. Even if those cameras are currently flagship, for me, the Nikon Z6 grip was the main part for me, and that's what got me not to invest into Sony. Still great cameras, and I'll switch between both of them, mainly, when I go on jobs, and sometimes I'll, use them on my own time. But my personal camera that I invested my own money in is the Z mount. I invested money in that because I think it's pretty good. They have a good lineup of lenses. I really do think that the lenses are nice because I think that Nikon played it pretty smart. Obviously, they know more about their business than I do. But where I'm going with this is that they launched their lineup first. Their lineup first, if I can remember correctly, was the primes. They launched the 35, the 50, and the 85 1.8S at prices around $800 for the 35 and the 85, and about $500 for the 50. And for that price, it was really good, appealing. I really did like the prices. It felt just right. And they do have their S for superior mark on them. And so, $1,000 lenses, I would expect, a decent amount, but not too much. And so far, they're pretty kick-ass. Like, they're really good. I love them. And where I'm going with this is that Canon went the exact opposite way. I would call Nikon the enthusiast friendly in the terms that it's more accessible for a beginner or a hobbyist or someone who's looking to take the next step in their business to get Nikon primes and some lenses like the f4s than it would be to get into the RF mount because those lenses are they're pro quality glass, and that's cool, and that fits those people that want it. But the people that can't really afford to bust out $3,000 or $2,500 on a lens, the Z mount is really appealing, and I don't understand what's wrong with that. Companies are doing things in their own way, and so they're approaching it differently. And obviously, they know better than we do about what's going on because they're the company, they'll run each other. And I gotta say, I'm a fan of Nikon's approach. The Canon RF line is just starting to push out more price-friendly glass, as I'm gonna try and put it, whereas the Nikon system won me over because I know what I want. Because I've used lenses like the 135 1.8 from Sony and the size glass and their 2.8 zooms, and after using them and also the Canon L lines and the 1DX and the 5D Mark IVs, I know exactly what I want, and I know how much out of a lens I require, and that's why the Z mount was perfect for me. Like 1.8 is perfect. I'm kind of taken back a little bit by the community's want for 1.4, 1.2 glass. There are benefits, obviously, more than just the aperture. Like, I'm not very well versed in lens design, but I try to understand as much as I can. I understand the optical design, with the glass elements inside, and more expensive lenses will be superior to that of, let's say, right now the prime example we have is the 50 1.8S and the upcoming 1.2 version of it. I'm sure the 1.2 version coming in at $2,000 will be much superior to the 1.8 version of the 50mm on the Z mount because of the optical elements and how it's designed, and perhaps even motors and stuff and coatings. What I'm trying to say is that you're paying for what you're getting, and $1,000 lenses are not cheap by any means, but they're still good. And obviously, if you need cheaper glass, I'm just gonna say it like it is. The whole community should know that photography is not a cheap hobby or a profession. It costs a lot. For example, the memory cards for my Z6 are X2D or CF Express cards, and those run about $200 for 128 gigabytes. And it's definitely a lot, but it's not something that, it's just part of what it is what it is, right? And so when I see people wanting these flagship items or flagship lenses, but they're complaining about the price, I understand the perspective, like, oh my gosh, why so much for a memory card or for a lens? But these companies have to pay their employees and, making all this stuff. And it all costs money, what I'm trying to say. And just trying to words, I think just understand them, that they have to make money to keep making the stuff that you want. And that if you want flagship things, it's going to cost flagship money. It's like you're not going to go to a BMW and expect to buy it for cheap, or a Mercedes, right? And so there's definitely different price points, and that's why I'm saying that the Nikon's approach with the different lineups on their cameras, they're filling in pretty comfortably most of the price points for most entry level camera prices, but they do still sell their DSLRs, their mirrored ones. They still sell them at stores or Best Buy, and people can still get them for $400-ish. And if people really want to, they could go online and get them even cheaper. So I think complaining isn't helping anyone. And if you want flagship stuff for cheap, I don't know what drugs you're on, but not going to happen. That's just the truth of it. This is an expensive field to be in. And the way to go about that is just, spend your money wisely. Like I said, even my Nikon at $1,600, it still hurt. I was like, okay, it hurt a little bit to spend that much money because I come from a place where I didn't have much growing up, but I understand that nice things cost money, and I believe in just buying nice things to save money in the long run instead of buying cheap things over and over again. I think Nikon's fine. I think it's more so an echo chamber that we have going on right now. Because I can tell you right now that real professionals, and as a professional photographer, I gotta say, we just make do with what we can. And most of my peers at work, they also believe the same way. They're not gear snobs. Most of them aren't, anyway. And, some of them are like, why would you want to buy that lens when this one does it just fine? And they're right. I feel like these people on forums that demand the absolute best are people that just sit behind their computers and watch YouTube videos instead of actually going out and taking pictures. Because I don't think many pros that actually go out and make money complain that much. It kind of would baffle me if the way some of these texts that I'm seeing online be composed and posted. I'm like, you're a professional, a working professional, right? They have it like in the start of their comment. They're like, as a working professional, this camera simply will not do. And then they go on a rant and just bash anyone who said otherwise. And, they might have some business, but overall, photography is a very people-oriented field. And I see some very level-headed, is that the word? Level-headed responses. And I'm like, okay, these people make good points. And I just lurk on all these forums and rumor sites and YouTube comments. I just lurk. But what I'm trying to say is that the people that are complaining, the loud minority, are probably just goblins that sit behind your desk and don't even take photos. I have never seen a professional really have much to say when it came in terms of gear. Most professionals know what they want and what they want their cameras to do. As a professional myself, the Z mount with one SD card kind of bothers me as the way it currently is, but I'm relying on the cards and I haven't had a failure. And I have had SD cards fail, but it was the cheap $20 Best Buy SanDisk. And that was on my D750. So I had two of them, so I've been good for many failures. But these cards at their price and their reliability, I'm counting on it. And I understand that, to each their own. But and I'm not going to say who. I know one professional photographer, one or two, depending on the event. And I would set up their cameras for this person because I was just an assistant that day. I wasn't shooting or anything. And we were having to swap out kits as the day went on. And I tried putting in double cards into his camera. And he was just like, don't do that. Why would you do that? I'm like, what do you mean? Why wouldn't you want it like that? It's like, because one card's good. And so what I'm trying to say here is that everyone expects different performance from their gear, and everyone definitely doesn't use two card slots, even for what was an important event. Yeah, even though it was an important event, this person still only wanted to use one card slot, which at the time I got spoon-fed the whole double card slots for redundancy. And I agree. I very much agree. It's always good to have a backup. But, to each their own. I know that a certain individual, multiple individuals in the community will not shut up about it. Someone has been using Z6s to apparently make all their videos, and I don't really see it breaking their ability to create videos, that person is still using them for videos. I know a lot of people that use the Z6 for videos, and I haven't heard any horror stories yet about the XQD or CF Express card breaking on them. I don't know. It's basically, as a professional, I gotta say as a professional photographer, all I gotta say is that for the upcoming younglings that are looking to get into the business, be careful not to get into this echo chamber or rabbit hole of just gas, like the gear acquisition syndrome and the snobbiness of the community. Because, we have all sorts of people. We have good people and then the bad apples. But I say there's less bad apples. I think most of the community is eager to help each other, and that's why I love this community. I'm lurking on every forum site, YouTube comments, most communities I'm a part of. I try to be part of this community. I just kind of keep to myself just because I'm relatively young in terms of to be considered professional. I will sometimes show up to a job and they're expecting a gray-haired man. And I'm like, no, hi, hello, I'm taking your pictures today. How are you? And they turn out just fine. But for the people that are coming up, just don't get stuck in these echo chambers where you just get into this zone where you just hear these things over and over and over again. Keep an open mind, and definitely don't start letting online personalities dictate the way that you should think, because their needs are different than yours. And if I was watching YouTube right now, let's say when I was, still in high school, if I was watching it right now, I was looking to know what was good and what was bad. And I think the way that some of these more prominent community members that have a voice, I'm talking in the millions, I think they should kind of soften up in the sense that they need to keep it real. I think they're hyperbolizing or using hyperboles when it comes to, oh, this camera sucks, or this brand sucks, or this lens sucks. I agree on the lenses. Some lenses really do suck, but sometimes their reviews are just, use it for 30 minutes. I know of a dude in my city who reviews gear in a blog, and someone told me, and it's a credible source, that just go into a store and ask to put on the lens on his camera body and walk around the shop and take a couple pictures, and that was their review. They didn't even buy the lens or rent it. They just walked around the store for half an hour, and that was their review. And I'm not saying most people do it. Obviously, most online people have footage of themselves using the cameras and taking pictures, but how long is it? On some of these sponsored posts, I see that they're like, hi guys, today we have this camera that I got to use for a week. 1 week. And that's I don't even know if they're shooting that entire week. Did you shoot that entire week? Because using it just Monday, Wednesday, Saturday before you send it off, that's not a lot of time to actually get to know a system really well. To see the kinks in it, to see the things that it does good. Because not every camera is perfect. But does it suit the needs of X, Y, Z? But don't just be this camera sucks because it doesn't fulfill my needs. And I don't know, I just want the community not to rip itself apart. And for me, that's very important because I feel like photography is really picking up, and that really makes me happy. I see a lot of my peers getting into photography with their iPhones, and I think that's fine. I don't get why we would gatekeep photographers from calling themselves photographers if they use an iPhone. I was part of the school newspaper, and some of the people there took better shots than some of the people that I saw with DSLRs on their iPhone 8s. Is that iPhone 8? I don't know. Anyways, so when I was part of the school newspaper, we would have to just take pictures for the school, and sometimes we were out of cameras, so what we would do would be that we shot regular action shots in terms of like, someone painting their painting or whatever. And so they did it with their iPhones, and no one really cared. No one really cared that it was on their phone. And so it was just for a small school thing. But I don't get the gatekeeping. Everyone's a photographer. You're welcome with me at least. Come in, gates open. I love when people pick up a camera and start getting into the photography. But it kind of worries me when the photography community can be putting out content like that's really negative. And that's worrying because honestly, some people, they may see that as like a gate-kept community to join. And sometimes I do see that when I'm online. But most of the time, I would say that we're really nice. And we're a really nice community of people. We're always looking to help each other and give each other practical tips. But there are the really noisy bad apples out there too. But that's everywhere, man. Come on. But basically, Nikon is doing fine. And I've seen the community come together and just be like, yo, this is a load of BS. Like, we're tired of, XYZ bashing on, this and that camera brand, because it's just like, you're kind of being obnoxious at some point. And I feel like some of these online personalities, they think that any publicity is good publicity, but really, no. I feel like if they just talked about it from the perspective of someone that's actually going to buy the camera instead of themselves, that would be more helpful. I feel that they're thinking, oh, it doesn't compete like my $4,500 camera. It's trash. When it's a $1,000 camera or a $1,600 camera or a $2,000 camera. Even between, everyone wants to compare the R6 and the Z6II, but the R6 is about $500 more expensive, and that's like a $500 difference in price, and that's pretty big. You can't really compare cameras like that. If it's a $2,000 camera versus a $2,000 camera, that's fine. But I just feel like when you're bringing all these cameras from different price points and trying to square them all up, obviously they're going to scale with their price. And I don't know, I just saw this and it's pretty nasty out there nowadays on the community. But I don't think we're doing that bad. Like I said, Nikon glass, really good. Entry-level friendly. I'm not gatekeeping here, I'm just saying that the prices are more friendly for people to get them than the pro lenses. Obviously, the working professional will get the lenses that they want and need because they know that their investment, they're going to make it back. But, sometimes price is a hurdle. And I'm not saying that, oh, well, don't get to more expensive glass because you don't need it. I mean, if you do need it, then get it. For example, I'm going to get the 24-70 2.8. That's a $2,000 lens, went on sale, and that's pretty expensive, especially for most people. But I know that I'll make money back on it, and it's for what I do. I love my job, and I love my hobby. My job and my hobby go together, and it all works out for me. But right now, let's see some of these juicy screenshots. Some of the stuff that the community says absolutely cracks me up. Okay, so someone said no more gold rings 2 years ago when the announcement came out. And I'm fine with the design. That brings up the thing where it's like, I dislike the Canon Great White design, the 7200 and all the telephoto lens being, snow white. It's like obnoxious at times, and I hate it. I love how Nikon has designed their things. That's the thing. No one is telling Nikon what they did right. No one is giving them praise. Everyone, every now and then will say something good about them, but they're kind of become the punching bag. Like for me, the images that come out of my Z are amazing. Even out of the D750, I love that camera. The video is great. As most people have come to agree on, the Z video is really good for the Z6 at least. The lenses are stellar. The ergonomics and button places are phenomenal. I wish there was a little bit more customization, but where it is now, it's really good. And I gotta, give props to that. Battery life is also really good. I hardly ever need to change a battery out during a shoot. I do shoot quite a bit, like even around 1,500 pictures sometimes, and my camera is still going strong on the battery life. So there's that. And then the firmware updates, firmware updates are amazing. And that's what I love about mirrorless is that they can add new features and stuff and change things based on feedback, but like good feedback, not like, oh man, this camera sucks. It's like, we need to tell them what we as a community would like. And I feel like they're going to listen. Because personally, my experience has been with the Sony rep in my city that she listens, and I don't know if she writes it down and throws it in the trash can or not, but she's sort of like, she asked me, all right, what would help you guys use these cameras, or what would you like? And me and my boss were just like, I said, not my boss, I forgot what he said, but what I said, I'm gonna speak for myself, is that, the menu system, right? And they're like, the representative was like, yes, we have had lots of people talk to us about the menus. We're working on it. We're telling our team about it. And I was like, at that point, I was like, wow, I actually have someone that works for this company that's telling me that they're listening to us. Like, that was amazing. And I feel like most companies do that. For example, Nikon, on their nets, the Z6II, they've added the grip, dual cards, faster shooting speed, hopefully faster autofocusing, because we don't know that yet. And so they're listening to us, and I feel like that's good. But I feel like when we have this group of, I'm going to say, YouTube photographers that have a voice, they're not really helping when they say this camera sucks and it's bad and you shouldn't get it. Not everyone says it that bluntly, but over their 10-minute and 30-second video, that's what they're basically saying in a nutshell. And it's like companies are just like, what are we supposed to do with this? And I think it would be more useful if they receive, positive feedback. And if they mess something up, then yeah, they mess something up. But I really dislike when everyone's like, oh, this is the features that they should have came out with 2 years ago. But everyone forgets that the Z6 and the Z7 are first generation mirrorless bodies. Like, does anyone realize that? That these are first gen bodies and we're just now getting the second generation of bodies. And the improvement in terms of like actual hardware and hopefully software is crazy. Like, even from the launch of the Z6 to where it is now in terms of like updates, it's super different. Like, the Z6 in 2020 and the Z6 in 2018 when it came out are two different cameras. And honestly, Nikon could have kept the firmware updates and just put out an official S version of the Z6 and with autofocus and all their improvements in RAW, but they gave that to us over time. And that's just, I don't know. We need to give credit when credit is due, and Nikon definitely is, has some depths to collect from some of these people. Okay, so here's Peter with Nikon Rumors saying, okay, I said this multiple times already, and I will repeat it again. When everyone was complaining about Sony having one SD card, every DSLR camera already had two SD cards for years. People are now complaining that Nikon has one XUD memory card. Nobody else has two XUD cards today except the $6,500 D5. If Nikon came out with only one SD card slot in the Z, it would have been much complained too. SD is not XQD. It requires much more to implement XUD. You need more to implement two XUD cards. And I'm not talking only about the actual slot. It requires more processing power, more memory, more whatever. Nikon obviously knows how to implement two X2D cards. They've already done it in the D5 for almost 3 years now. Okay, I'm sure they could have done it in the Z, but it would have cost a lot of money, and then people would complain about the price and ask for at least one X2D memory card slot. Like, that's true. I ran across that comment while I was surfing back in the forums and looking at their history, and I was like, that's facts. He's a Peter speaking facts. The D5 already has two, I think, as he pointed out. And that's a really expensive camera, $6,000. So I think the fact that we even got that technology in a $1,600 when on sale Z6 is pretty huge. Like, they could have just put SD cards and everyone would have been happy with that, but eventually we have to upgrade the form factor that we're using to store our photos. And I think that that's good. I don't think it's a bad thing. I dislike the price, but it is what it is, and I'm trusting that I'm paying for what I'm going to get in terms of reliability and how long I'm going to be able to use them for and write speed and all that other stuff. So it makes sense. Okay, and then there's this comment about the Noct. It's like, I don't know why some people are complaining about this lens. Just because it's not for me, that doesn't mean somebody else isn't waiting for one. The lens will sell for 2/3 the amount of Leica charges for one and their Noculux lenses. So the cost of a system comprised of this lens and a Nikon Z camera will approach the price of a single Leica lens. Would I personally want or need one? No. But I also don't need a super telephoto lens like what sport and nature photographers uses. Some photographers must be salivating for such a lens and are ready to purchase one. So kudos to Nikon for providing them with the product that they desire. And I agree. I was really excited for the Noct because for me it's like optically, apparently it's like an engineering masterpiece for the price and everything else. And it was manual focus, but the people that can afford that lens will buy it. And the people that want that level of detail will buy it and performance, and they know that they want it and that they'll use it. We have, apparently, to my knowledge, one person in my city who owns a Noct, and I'm sure they're using it whenever they need it, or else they wouldn't buy it. And do I want a Noct? Yes. I eventually want to get one, if it's still around by the time that I have that kind of money. At the time I can't get one, and I have the 15mm 1.8S. And so the Noct is pretty sweet. I mean, you have this thing that's the best Nikon lens ever in terms of optical performance and design. And I forgot. Nikon team, forgive me for butchering your message on the Noct lens, but I'm just paraphrasing here on what I remember. But for what it is, I was really excited for the Noct and seeing the 095, and some of these things are like an engineering exercise maybe, or like maybe developing something like the Noct will lead to better glasses all around in terms of like maybe while developing it they discovered something new. So it's like looking at it from that perspective that it helps out everything else. And the Noct is a real product that you can buy for $8,000. And that's a lot of money, but like you said, some Leica lenses cost that much. Some Cine lenses cost much more. And it's like, if you want to slap a Z6 Mark II, a Z6II onto a rig and slap the Noct 58, right, on there and use that and have a dedicated focus puller, like, I think you're going to get some pretty sick stuff. Obviously, I'm not saying that the gear equates to the quality, but, the people that know that they need it will use it. But I agree with this person and what they have to say about the Noct. I think that the Noct is super cool, and the people hating on it are haters. Okay, so Bob out here also spitting facts. I don't understand all the negativity. You don't have the money. So just read about it. There are plenty of people in this world that are into photography that for them spending $8,000 is like us spending $80. And I'm pretty sure that's what this lens tickles their fancy. Wait, what? Oh no, my dyslexia. spending $80, and I'm pretty sure that if this lens tickles their fancy, they would drop 8 G's without batting an eye. Good for Nikon for producing a lens that will be the holy grail for many. Honestly, that's what it is. It would be like a holy grail lens. I would kind of like want as a party trick. It's like, hey, look, you see this? Look. You see my knot? Yeah. I don't want to encourage that kind of snobbery, but it is cool when you have a piece of tech like that. Okay, last one. Nikon got a lot right the first time. Now they're improving, and based on feedback, it's holding someone to impossible standards to expect perfection at the same time. Facts. Managers do that with their staff and are bad managers, and customers that expect that of their suppliers are bad customers that should be ignored, and if you can't do that, fired. I'm not talking about customers that give honest feedback and work with their suppliers, like most on this thread. For you others, perhaps Sony is a better home. If you are looking for XYZ feature and it already exists on this system, go to that system and stop complaining. Good Lord. Enough with the I'm leaving unless I get a 77.5mm f1.314159 pancake lens by tomorrow. No, a 85mm or a 58mm won't do. Yeah, there are gaps in the lineup. More popular lenses will get priority. You should have bought more of your favorite niche lenses in f-mount. If everyone needed a 135mm f2 weather sealed macro tilt shift D-click aperture lens with real filter slot, there would be one out by now. And I have to say, I agree with that. I think that's a good place to just end the video. That just about sums up all my feelings about this stuff. I'm very excited for Nikon, very happy. And I can't wait to see the future of the whole photography community in terms of us creatives and the companies and what they put out into the world during these unprecedented times. Oh God, that makes me barf. Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that hang on tight. We'll get there, and it's a very exciting time to be a photographer, I think, because of the mirrorless and shut up.